Welcome. We're about to get into it. A huge video, the first of the year, and I'm actually very excited for this one. But what is up, everybody? It's me, Jrod, the filmmaker, former film major, frequent fighting gamer from Philadelphia, and welcome to 2024. Look at this. I even got a nice little cheesy like clip art graphic that I found on Google just to commemorate the new year. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. It's still very early, second day, so obviously I have no idea what to expect from this year, but I'm just hoping it's better than the last one, because the last one was actually pretty good. I had a pretty good 2023, mostly like for content creation for this channel. It was a huge year for growth on this channel. We passed 400 and 500 subscribers. We're getting close to 600 subscribers, and we even hit another huge milestone that I will announce at the very end of this video if you haven't already seen it. But it's 2024, and you guys know what we like to do in the very beginning of the year. We like to recap, rewind, and reminisce on the last year. So that is what we are going to do today. This is the Ufilmee Rewind. And this might be your first one because, like I said, I did get a lot of new subscribers in 2023. So all it is I'm going to go over every single thing that I watched in 2023. TV, movies. I even have a section for video games that I said I would add after last year's list. And yeah, we're gonna get right into it. I'm just gonna list every single thing, give a very short review, because honestly, if I gave a full review of all of these, this would be like a 2 to 3 hour video. So this will be our fourth one. We did 2020, 2021, 2022, and now we are doing 2023. And I even considered like just completely getting rid of this segment because it's very tedious to edit. I mean, it's fun to do, it's just tedious to edit, and I don't think I'm gonna get rid of it. I actually really I think my favorite part of making this video is just journaling every single thing that I'm watching throughout the year. Without further ado, let's get into it, and we're going to start off with the TV shows that are uncategorized. All right, the first show on the list is going to be Upload. Now, I was actually recommended the show Upload last year. Well, okay, in 2022, I was recommended Upload, but since I was working on that watch list at the time, I was like, all right, I'll make this one of the first shows I watch in 2023. And it was, and I really enjoyed it. It's like feel good, it's funny, it has some sci-fi futuristic elements, but it's such an easy watch, really easy to get into. I definitely suggest Upload if you haven't seen it. I think you'll enjoy it, because I sure did. Then next up we have the L Word Generation Q, but this is a scripted series. If you know what the L Word is, it's about queer women and lesbians, and this is their new next gen spin-off of the show. And I didn't watch the original show, so I had no basis, but this was actually a really fun show. I liked the characters. I liked some of the situations. I'm not sure if it's gonna come back for another season. It wasn't like anything amazing, but it was a pretty good watch, pretty casual watch that I did enjoy. Next up is The Head. If you guys remember The Head, this was on one of my past lists. I want to say it's last year's list, but I'll correct it if not. But I watched the first season of The Head around Halloween when I was focusing on spooky, scary, thriller, suspense type series. And the second season came back, and I honestly didn't think they could follow the show up because it's a murder mystery type thing. And I was like, well, how are they going to continue that for another season when we might have already solved the murder mystery? But wow, they did an amazing job. If you like suspense, thriller, it's not really horror per se, but it's suspense, thriller, murder mystery, I think you would enjoy The Head. This is on HBO Max. Then next up is going to be All American. Now, I've actually been watching All American for a couple seasons now. My mom and my sister got me into it, and I'm hooked. It's kind of goofy, it's kind of cheesy, but that's the reason we keep coming back to it every single time. It's a melodrama, but we watch it like a comedy, and we enjoy every single episode of All American. And same thing with the spin-off All American Homecoming. It's different in some ways, but it's exactly the same in other ways. I did enjoy All American Homecoming as well, and I'm glad that it got renewed for another season. Next up we had Harlem. This is the show featuring Megan Good as the lead. It's on Amazon Prime if I remember correctly, and it's a fun show, it's a fun watch. I can't really think of anything like distinct about this show, but it is really funny. It's a good comedy that has funny characters, so if you're looking for a female-led comedy, I think you would like Harlem. But you know, nothing to write home about. Next up was That 90s Show, the spinoff of That 70s Show that is on Netflix. I didn't think I would like this show. I liked it a little more than I thought I would, but I don't like it near as much as I like the original That 70s Show. And then Carnival Row, this show, also on Amazon Prime, was on hiatus for years. I think about 3 years between season 1 and season 2 of this show. And I had actually forgotten how much I liked the show, so I rewatched season 1, and I really do like this show. It's like a fantasy, Victorian era type thing, and I just love it. Next up on the list, we have Outer Banks. Outer Banks on Netflix. This is like a coming of age treasure hunting mystery show. It's definitely different than anything I expected, and this is another one where, yes, it's a little bit cheesy, but that did not deter me from enjoying it. I actually liked the entire show, but I just remember the plot of the show getting like more and more insane as it went on. Like they were running from pirates and they were hunting treasure, and they moved to the Bahamas and was running from the cops. It's a very expansive, a very large scale show, but it's pretty good, a fun watch. I think you would enjoy it more if you were younger, you know, high school age, and you can relate to the characters a little more. But I am not high school age, and I still really did enjoy Outer Banks. Then there's Alice in Borderland. This is the Korean show. I was recommended this show after I finished Squid Game, and I finally checked it out. And it's really fun. It's different. It's fantasy-ish. It's sci-fi, but it also does have similar dark themes and dark games to how Squid Games was. Alice in Borderland is definitely a very unique and different show. I don't want to sit here and try to explain it to you because it is very out there, but I think that if you did enjoy Squid Game, you would also enjoy Alice in Borderland. It does have some darker themes, but at the same time, it's kind of a whimsical nature to it, while it is definitely based off of like Alice in Wonderland, but dark future fantasy elements as well. Then there was Hello Tomorrow, a show at Apple Plus. This one is very unique, and is about people who sell condos on the moon. It follows a salesman who is trying to get everybody a condo on the moon. It's about like hope, and about selling hope, and about like selling people dreams, but at the same time there was a wholesome nature to it, where even though they were conning people out of their money, it seems like maybe they were doing it for a good reason. That sounds so crazy, but I think you would only understand if you checked out Hello Tomorrow. So check it out. It had this weird retro futuristic feel to it, and I think that's what definitely drew me into it, because I love retro futurism. I just think that we had a better idea of the future when we were in the past, and so that always draws me in. The next up is The Mandalorian. We got another season of The Mandalorian this year, and I really enjoyed the season. I don't think it was my favorite out of all the seasons, but it focused a lot on the Mandalorians rebuilding Mandalore, them teaming up, regrouping, reorganizing, and it featured like every Mandalorian character except for one. But yeah, it was really fun seeing them rebuild. It was fun seeing Baby Yoda get back into the fray, aka Grogu. I enjoyed the show a lot, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I think I will always enjoy The Mandalorian. The next up is From. This is a suspense horror thriller that is on Epix, or I think they changed their name to MGM Plus, but From is really good. It's from the makers of Lost, if I remember correctly, and it does have some similarities where it is a very it's a thriller, it's a mystery, it's some things that you really can't explain, but getting caught up in that mystery just really got me through the 2 seasons, and I enjoyed them. Like it's a show where when it goes off, you kind of miss it. You really want it to come back because you want to get back enthralled in that story and entangled in the lives of all these characters. So that was From. I really did enjoy it. I think you might too if you like horror, thriller, mystery, sci-fi type elements. The next up was A League of Their Own. This is the series based on the film, which is about an all-woman baseball league, and I don't think I've ever seen the original film, but I really enjoyed this series. It featured a lot of actresses like Abby Jacobson from Broad City. Rosie O'Donnell was also in it because I think she was in the original, so she was reprising a role or coming back as a new character, I really don't know. A League of Their Own is a really good story. Obviously, it has a feminist lean. Women are leading this. Women are in charge of this story. Women are all over the story. It's about women, and they are strong women. They know what they want. And I really did enjoy A League of Their Own. Sadly, I think it's already been canceled. I don't think we're going to get a second season, which sucks. But not only did it deal with, feminism and women in a man's world, but it also did deal with racial tensions and the difference between white and black women at the time. And that intersectionality, honestly, was one of my favorite parts of the show. Sex Life on Netflix, I couldn't recommend this show. I didn't like it at all. Yeah, I don't know. It's a scripted series. It's about sex. It has some crazy, insane scenes. But the story and the characters, honestly, I didn't like them. I didn't relate to them. So that's probably why I didn't enjoy the story. You might enjoy the story and relate to the characters a little bit better than I did. But for me, Sex Life on Netflix wasn't worth making the second season, I'll say. Then there is Blind Spotting. This is another TV series that is based off of a movie that I have not seen. But Blind Spotting the series continues the story of Blind Spotting the movie, but follows a different character's perspective, and it's actually really good. It's a little hard to explain because it's a scripted series. It's funny at times, but there's also this like artistic element to it where the characters, sometimes they'll rap, sometimes they'll do poetry, sometimes they'll dance. There's always this extra element to it. It's not a musical per se, but there are a lot of musical people working on this show, so it does kind of always take that direction. But it was a really good show. I did enjoy Blind Spotting, and I think you might too if you checked it out. Sweet Tooth on Netflix. This wasn't new to me. I checked out the previous seasons, and I was really, really impressed with the newest season of Sweet Tooth. It is like a pretty wholesome post-apocalyptic series. And honestly, you don't get that very often. So I think that's one of the things that makes it unique and makes it memorable to me. But Sweet Tooth Season 2, in my opinion, was really good. I love the aesthetics. I love the character moments. I loved it more than Season 1, and I actually really did like Season 1. Yeah, Sweet Tooth on Netflix, that's one that I would definitely recommend. Next up is A Black Lady Sketch Show on HBO Max. This was their third, maybe fourth season coming back. And I love this show, man. I mean, it's self-explanatory. It's a black lady sketch show. It's a sketch show by black women for black women. I mean, hey, it was for me as well, so I think you'll enjoy it even if you're not a black woman. But what I love about this show is that the characters they create are so funny. Every single season there's like a really memorable character, and honestly, most of the time Sky Townsend is the one playing that memorable character. Next up, there is MK Legacy, Mortal Kombat Legacy. This is a short series that used to be a machinima streaming service original, but there used to be a streaming service that doesn't exist anymore, and they made a Mortal Kombat series. But it is a really solid Mortal Kombat series. Like it's pretty old, but to this day I still really enjoyed Mortal Kombat Legacy. It has like these short film or short vignettes about certain characters, and so it's not like a full series like Mortal Kombat Conquest was last year, but it still does really understand the characters, and it still does give you these really amazing fight scenes. There's a CGI fight scene with Cyrax and Sector that honestly I think that aged so well. It still looks amazing to this very day. I think it came out before or around MKX. I now have a tradition that I am trying to get all the Mortal Kombat media and check it out, all the shows. We checked out Mortal Kombat Conquest, we checked out the first film, we're going to check out the second film, MK Legacy. I think next we have Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realms, which is the animated series. So I'll look for that, see if I can find it, and we'll watch that for next year's list. Then there is I Think You Should Leave, Tim Robinson's sketch show on Netflix. Absolutely hilarious. If you think you don't know Tim Robinson or I Think You Should Leave, check out this clip.
I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about any of this.
That is it. That's from the show. So I think that you do know Tim Robinson more than you let off. And there are so many clips from his series that you could clip by itself and have a hilarious moment just like that. It's full of insane scenarios, insane characters. Nothing ever really makes sense, and honestly, I think Tim Robinson is the only person who could put together such an absolutely insane comedy series. Then there was Run the World. This was a series on Stars, I believe. It's kind of similar to Harlem, and it's a woman-led like romance comedy series, but this one was on hiatus for a really long time. I believe it initially went on hiatus for the pandemic. While most other shows were going on hiatus for the writer's strike and the actor strike, this was actually finally coming back around the writer's strike and the actor strike. Again, it's hard to say if this show was memorable. It was fun, it's funny, and it also has some characters on there too. But Run the World and Harlem, they kind of occupy the same space in my brain. They're not unique or distinct enough from each other for me to really remember each of the stories. It's not a bad show. I just wish there was a little bit more unique about the show. That I wish I had more to say, is basically what I want to say. Then next up is Average Joe. This is a BET Plus series starring Dion Cole, and this is a sleeper hit, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know many BET Plus originals, but I think this might be the best one. And Dion Cole and also Malcolm Barrett is one of his co-stars. They are known for being funny. They are known for their comedy, but this is a action thriller crime drama. I mean, it's still, I would say it's a dark comedy because it is still funny, but it is a very different tone than what you would expect from Dion Cole and Malcolm Barrett. I definitely recommend it. But the only problem is I get that a lot of people don't have BET Plus. Then there was Feel Good. This is a comedy series that was on Netflix, and you could say it's a feel-good comedy. It's also a romantic comedy. What I liked about this one is I watch a lot of British shows and I enjoy them, and this was halfway a British show. It featured a British character who falls in love with a Canadian character, and there were a lot of American actors and actresses on the one side, then there were a lot of the British actors and actresses on the other side. And Feel Good was actually a really good show, really good characters, addressed some like really serious topics, but in a way where it was still fun and funny. I would definitely recommend Feel Good 100%. What We Do in the Shadows, I don't have to say much about this one because this show just continues to be hilarious. Every single time it comes back, I'm like, I don't know how it's going to top that last season. I don't know how it's going to continue to be this funny. And it does every single time. What We Do in the Shadows is on FX. It's hilarious. It's about vampires, if you don't know, but it is a straight comedy. There is nothing like horror thriller about it. Some of the funniest characters and situations like on TV of all time, I gotta admit. Then there was The Righteous Gemstones, another hilarious show returning this year. And yeah, what should I say? This was another really good season. I feel like they brought the scale of the show up in this one. A lot of new characters in this one, a lot of new props and scenarios. A really large scale story, I would say, for this new season of The Righteous Gemstones. I really enjoyed it. I thought that the characters are still as stupidly funny as always. Next up is Bonding. This is a show that was on Netflix as well, and it is about a woman who works as a dominatrix, and she hires her friend to be her assistant. It's really funny. Obviously, it's dealing with scenarios that are usually taboo because she works as a dominatrix. She like literally works in a dungeon, but the way that it was handled was really good. Like, this is indistinguishable from any other sitcom that you would watch on Netflix or anywhere else. Like, it's just as bright and funny as The Office or Parks and Rec. It just deals with a little bit darker subject matter. I would definitely recommend Bonding, as I thought it was really good. Next up is Letterkenny. You guys should know how much I love Letterkenny. It was on one of these lists, maybe 2020, maybe 2021, when I first started watching the show. So this year I got to binge watch about 3 different seasons. And unfortunately, the final season is on now. It comes on Crave, but it also streams on Hulu. And I 100% recommend Letterkenny. It has 12 seasons. It's hilarious. It has amazing characters, great writing. Like, it's just outright funny through every single episode. It's unique because it does like great writing humor, phrasing humor, and just funny stuff that you normally don't think about. I'm watching the last season right now, but I'm gonna take my time with it because I don't want Letterkenny to not be on anymore. And then there was Ahsoka. Now Ahsoka, this one caught me by surprise. This one snuck up on me. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Like I said, I'm a fan of Ahsoka. But boy, I did not know how much I missed Sabine, Hera, and I'm not going to spoil some other characters from Star Wars Rebels, but Chopper is also in this. I did not know how much I missed the Star Wars Rebels characters, and seeing them in live action, I mean, it was weird because it almost feels like it didn't miss a beat. These still felt like the characters from Star Wars Rebels, even though that was animated, this was live action. But Ahsoka herself was really amazing in this. The story is good. Like, honestly, this is kind of peak Star Wars, I'm not gonna lie. Andor is definitely still the best Star Wars show that they've ever made, but I think Ahsoka might come in a close second. I really did enjoy it, and I need them to come back with more seasons because I will be there. The other Black Girl is a thriller series that was on Hulu, and it's pretty good. It's, you know, nothing too crazy. I thought it was more of a horror series with like some supernatural occurrences, but I mean, while there is a little bit of that, I think it's just more of a thriller. I thought it was a really good first season. I would definitely watch another one. Next up is another sleeper hit. I don't even know if I could call this one a sleeper hit because I think everyone who knows about this show knows that it's really good. Gen V, the spinoff of The Boys, that takes place at Godolphin University. It's a college set spinoff of The Boys, and that college, since it's in the Boys universe, is a college for superheroes. While that sounded really good on paper, and I wanted to check it out because I thought I would like it, I loved it. I love this show so much. It was so good. The characters are amazing. The story is better than I could ever think, and I keep going back and forth because I think I like it more than The Boys. I definitely like this first season more than I like the first season of The Boys. When the new season of The Boys comes out, I'll probably like The Boys more, and then another season of Gen V comes out, I'll probably like Gen V more. So I think I'm going to keep just ping-ponging back and forth between those two shows, but Gen V is really, really good. So if you like The Boys, oh, trust me, I think you're going to like Gen V. Everything Now, this is another Netflix series, another coming-of-age style series. I had actually watched this show after Sex Education had finished its final season. We're actually going to talk about that later. I wouldn't say it's like Sex Education. It's definitely very different. What I think it's more similar to is Euphoria. I think this is like Netflix's take on Euphoria because it's coming of age, kind of dark themes, but also kind of fun and wholesome in certain ways. It's about a teenager who's coming of age, but she's also dealing with an eating disorder. And I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. So that's Everything Now on Netflix. Next up is American Horror Stories. Stories, not to be confused with American Horror Story, but Stories came back around Halloween for a Halloween special that had like 4 episodes, and some of them are good, some of them are meh, but you know, that's what happens when you get an anthology series. Every single episode is a different story, so they're not all going to hit the same. Then I watched a show called Dirty Lines. I recently finished the show. This is also on Netflix, and it's set in Amsterdam. It's kind of set in the past, like the 80s, 90s, if I remember correctly. It's about a woman who works for a phone sex hotline just to make a living in Amsterdam and to pay her rent, basically. It was interesting. It went into like details about it that I never thought about. Like the company had to buy more lines to keep their business going, and they kept brainstorming new ideas to get more audience. And it was a really interesting show, unique show, but it just didn't stand out at the end of the day. Like, none of the characters, stories, or scenarios were really memorable for me, but it was a fun watch nonetheless. Starstruck on HBO Max. I've talked about this one before because it's coming back for another season, and I love it. This is a will they, won't they romance, but modern day with, you know, it kind of subverts tropes where you think it would do something. It zigs where you think it would zag. But Starstruck is so good, so funny. The main character, she is hilarious in this show. Like, really, really funny. I think that's the main thing about it. I mean, everyone in this show is really funny. It's not one of those where there's only one character pulling the entire show. But I love Rose's comedy, and it makes me want to come back every single time. I don't know if they're gonna get another season just because of how this one ended, but if they did, I would definitely be back for another season of Starstruck. Murder at the End of the World is another murder mystery, and it sounds like an Agatha Christie style of film similar to like Murder on the Orient Express, and I think that's definitely what they were going for, but it's more futuristic. I think it's technically set in present day, but it has a lot of futuristic sci-fi AI type elements to it. It wasn't the best. It wasn't bad at all, but I just felt like when we got to the end and the mystery was solved, it kind of felt like a waste of time. I don't know. It was them trying to constantly pull the wool over your eyes and switch everything up and keep you on your toes, keep you guessing. By the end of it, I was like, what was even the point of all that? But if you like murder mysteries and you just like the visual spectacle of series, this is a really good looking show. Like, it looks amazing. The settings, the environments that they created for the show, they all look really amazing. So yeah, if you want to check it out for the spectacle, go ahead. But if you want to check it out for the story, you might be disappointed like I am. Finishing off this category of the list, I am currently watching Power Raising Kanan. This is my favorite Power series, including the original one. I think that this one is peak of the Power series. Has some really great characters, really fun to watch. And yeah, it's on right now, so I'm not gonna give my full opinions of the show because, you know, obviously things could change, but I'm really enjoying it right now. I'm enjoying the new characters that they introduced. Every single time I come back for this one, I'm not disappointed. So I think that Power Raising Kanan will continue to impress as long as it's on. Alright, so that was it for the uncategorized TV shows. Next up is going to be animated. Just animated series, because if it's an animated feature film, I put it in the movies category. This is animated cartoons as well as anime. I combine those two, so yeah. But Spy Family is an anime, and it's pretty cute. It's pretty wholesome. I think you can consider it slice of life, but it's also funny and it's also action. So it has everything I'm looking for in a show. I really enjoy Spy Family. Might be my favorite anime that I watched this year. It's about a spy family. A spy needs to make a family for his mission, and he does that. Then there was Trigun Stampede. I watched the original Trigun series last year, so I wanted to check out the new spin-off Trigun Stampede. And it's good. If you really enjoyed the first series, you'll probably enjoy this one. But I found it just a bit more boring than the original Trigun. It does a lot more of the backstory, a lot more of the emotional moments, where I really just wanted a lot more like goofy, fun, actiony moments. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. This is the Marvel series that I talked about in February for Black History Month, and the first season of it was absolutely amazing. It's funny, it's light, it's technically a kid show, but honestly, I was so impressed with it. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur came in and did the thing. One thing I really loved is the animation style. It has a hand-drawn look to it that kind of reminds me of Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animation style. It's a Marvel character. It's a black girl Marvel character, which is something that is very unique, and I need you all to support it. It just cleaned up a couple of like daytime Emmys, so everyone is starting to catch on that this show is a banger. And speaking of bangers, My Dad the Bounty Hunter. I believe both seasons came on this year. Another show that I talked about in February for Black History Month. But boy, the second season of this show was actually really good. I did not expect them to go that hard. I don't even think they had to go that hard because I liked the first season already. But yeah, it's worth it just to get to the second season and see how much bigger the show got in scale. And I think that means that people enjoyed the first season, so I'm happy to hear that. Next up is the Proud Family reboot, known as Proud Family Louder and Prouder. Really enjoyed this show again. I mean, it's amazing how long after the original show this came out, and still it gives you a lot of those same feelings that I had when I watched Proud Family when I was younger. It's a family show, it's a fun show, it's hilarious. I mean, come on, I don't have to explain Proud Family, I don't think. Fired on Mars. This is a new animated series. This was on HBO Max, and this has a completely different tone than you would expect from adult animation because it's just a lot more realistic in tone, and that's saying a lot considering it takes place on Mars. But it's a workplace comedy. It's about a graphic designer, and it doesn't rely on like crazy raunchy humor. It's very down to earth and still provided a really good season of television. I don't think it got renewed for a second one, which is very unfortunate, but I want everyone who can to check out season 1 of Fired on Mars. Next up, this is one that I will tell any and everybody to watch. Unicorn Warriors Eternal. This is the new Genndy Tartakovsky animated show that came on Adult Swim, and y'all, if you're not watching it, you're missing it. That's all I can say, because this show is amazing. I will talk about it every moment I can. Just amazing action, amazing characters, amazing story throughout from beginning to end. There was literally nothing about Unicorn Warriors Eternal that I didn't like. I think the runtime was great. I think the character designs are amazing. And I just really loved it. I think you guys gotta check this one out. It has this, like, I don't know if it was hand-drawn animation, but it's stylized to look like hand-drawn animation. And I just love it because it puts me in like a space that I don't think I've been since I was a very young child watching animated shows. But don't get it twisted. This is on Adult Swim. This is not a children's show. This is a little more mature. Still very, very good. So check out Unicorn Warriors Eternal. Then we had Star Wars Visions Season 2. I made an entire video about it, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I really liked it. That's all I'll say. Clone High, the reboot of Clone High. It was really well timed because I just checked out Clone High whenever Paramount Plus came out, and I reviewed Paramount Plus. That was when I first checked out the original Clone High series. So I was excited for another season. It did some new things. It did some old things. It's like I like that it still felt like the original show, where it had a humor and a tone that we haven't really seen since like 90s animation, maybe even early 2000s animations. So I really did like the Clone High reboot. That's a reboot that I enjoyed, and I'm glad they made, unlike some other ones we'll get to later. Then we had Human Resources. This is the spinoff of Big Mouth on Netflix. Another really good season. You know, nothing too crazy. They found a really good format for these shows, and I think that this one just does live up to the expectations that were set in the original series. Another one that I gotta talk about is Kazazimoto. This is an anthology series on Disney Plus that features African stories by African storytellers, African characters. It has like a futuristic style and theme to it, but it has some original, unique stories in y'all. This is just as good, if not better, than Love, Death, and Robots, and the fact that there are some African creators on here who don't normally even get a chance to be seen in larger formats like Disney Plus. But not only is it unique, it's really good. Like literally every single episode is really good, which, like I said earlier, that's uncommon for anthology. Even with something like Love, Death, and Robots, I always have that one episode that's like, I could skip this one. Not Kazazimoto. Every single episode was a banger. And then next up, Craig of the Creek. Like I said earlier, every single episode of Craig of the Creek is a banger. I'm only watching it when they upload the episodes to HBO Max, so I think I'm behind on where everyone else is. I know it's soon going to be coming to an end. There's like season 5, I guess, is the end, and then there's going to be a movie. I still have a couple more episodes that I'm waiting to come to HBO Max, but then I think once the entire season is up, I think that's going to be the last season of Craig of the Creek. And I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. This show is amazing, hilarious, amazing characters, and yes, it's a kids show, guys, but this show can be appreciated by anyone of any age. We got a black male as the lead. There's a lot of family episodes that are just amazing. Craig of the Creek, guys, come on, watch Craig of the Creek. I've made multiple videos, including my Black History Month video, about why you should watch Craig of the Creek. So watch Craig of the Creek. Then there was the Futurama reboot. New episodes of Futurama. Really excited for this. Futurama is one of my favorite adult animated shows growing up. And it came back, and it almost doesn't feel like it misses a beat to me. It feels like it just slotted right back in. It has that same sense of humor, which is, again, it's not as like over the top and raunchy as you normally get with adult animated series. It's a lot more like The Simpsons humor. But I just love Futurama. I love these characters. I'm so invested in them, and I will return as long as they keep making it. Then there was the Dragon Prince on Netflix. This is the series from the creator of the Avatar, the Last Airbender Avatar. And yeah, another really good season of the Dragon Prince. They're definitely leading up to a really big story at the end. I think that they're coming to the end of the series overall, but Dragon Prince it's progressing really well, and I enjoy watching it every time it comes on. Captain Falls, however, was a brand new Netflix animated series, and like the other ones, I really liked it because the tone is different. There was times where this show was like mysterious and dark, and it's funny. It's a comedy. It's not a thriller or anything, but it does have this like different tone. It's another one like Fired on Mars that has a more mature tone. I like that. I would recommend it. And it's another show like I want more adult animated series in this tone. Then there was Jujutsu Kaisen, which it's still on, right? We didn't finish it, but I did catch up on the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen at the end of last year, and it's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. I like the action scenes. I like the fight scenes. I like the characters. It honestly took me several episodes to remember what was going on, or even know what was going on, but I think I have a better idea of the story now. And then American Dad, another adult animated series that I grew up with. This show is still on, if you didn't know. It comes on TBS now, and so I checked out the newest season, and yeah, still really funny, still really outrageous. It's American Dad. Solar Opposites is another one, but this one was a little bit different, so they had to recast basically any character in any animated show that he voiced, including one of the characters in Solar Opposites. However, it honestly did not affect me at all. The story was still really good. Dan Stevens is the new voice of Corvo, and I think he does an amazing job. I gotta come back every season for the Wall story. Like the main story, the Solar Opposites main story is good, but the Wall story is so good, I can't afford to miss it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out Solar Opposites. Baki Hamna, this is another anime on Netflix. It's absolutely outrageous. I keep coming back to it because it's almost like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, in that it's bizarre, but the things that are going on are technically like a little bit more realistic. Like no one has superpowers per se, but they exaggerate the feats of a normal human so much that they basically do have superpowers. Disenchantment came back on Netflix for its final season. I'm so sad that this show is off, but it was a really good season to end off. I love the show all around, every single season. And it was a really good story overall. Then we had Scissor 7, also on Netflix, an anime. This is like one of my favorite shows. This is a sleeper hit because it's, two parts, as the dark story and then the lighter side of the story. Now it's a lot more of the dark story because they got through like the, all the exposition and the setup and all that. So now it's a lot more action oriented. There are some amazing fight scenes in it. Check out Scissor 7 if you like great fight scenes in anime. Star Trek Lower Decks came back for another season. I'm not a huge Star Trek person, but Lower Decks is the show that I decide to watch every single time because it's funny, has great characters, and I'm very invested in it at this point. Young Love, this was the premiere season of Young Love on HBO Max, and what a first season it was. This show is really good, really wholesome, heartwarming, but also just hilariously funny at the same exact time. Some great characters. Issa Rae and Kid Cudi are starring in this, as well as Loretta Devine. Tamar Braxton is also starring in this. This is another one. I can't think of a bad thing about Young Love. It's a great story, great characters, hilarious, heartwarming, and wholesome, like I said. Check it out on HBO Max because this is one that deserves a lot of attention. Crapopolis is a new Fox series that comes on in the Animation Domination block, along with like Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, and The Simpsons. And honestly, this is one of the best shows that they've introduced in this block since Bob's Burgers, I will have to say. It's hilariously funny in a very unique situation where it's an adult animated series that takes place at like the dawn of civilization. So there's that. It creates some really unique scenarios, and I think you'll enjoy Crapopolis if you gave it a chance. Crap with a K. All right, and then we had Scavenger's Reign. Wait a minute, maybe I put this one in the wrong category because this could definitely be a GOAT show. This is one of the greatest shows that I watched for the entire year. Scavenger's Reign is an animated series that takes place on a distant planet, and it features the crew of a stranded spaceship as they all try to come back together and make it back to the ship. It's so good. Insanely good. I can't even explain how good it is because I did not expect it to be as good as it was. But there are these psychological elements, beautifully animated. Like, I cannot stress this enough. The show looks really, really good, and the story of it was just amazing. You guys have to check out Scavenger's Reign. If you don't check out anything on this list, please make it that. Then Big Mouth came back for another new season. Like I said, they got a format. They're sticking to it. It was pretty good. Laserhawk, Captain Laserhawk The character from Far Cry Blood Dragon got his own series on Netflix, and I like this series because it's not just a Far Cry TV show, but it's kind of a Ubisoft TV show where it features little nods to like Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs and a bunch of other Ubisoft properties all rolled up into one. It was really good. I mean, not a memorable story. I honestly don't remember everything that happened, but it was a fun watch while I watched it. Rick and Morty came back for another season with their new voice actors, and honestly, I don't think it missed a beat. I think what I watch Rick and Morty for is the writing, and the writing is still on point. There were some really good episodes in the season, including the season finale. Blue Eye Samurai is another animated show that I could consider to be a GOAT show. This is another one of the greatest of the year, and I mean, it's a samurai show, amazing action, really good story and characters, just like all my favorite shows on this list. But yeah, the action is really what sets this show apart. Like, you'd be surprised at how good the animated fight scenes look. Then Scott Pilgrim Takes Off was the Scott Pilgrim animated series on Netflix, and one thing that surprised me is it's a completely different story than the Scott Pilgrim film, which I thought was great. I thought it was going to be a retelling, and it was not, so that made it a fun watch. And yeah, it was a fun watch. Archer, we all know Archer, right? The series on FX that has been on for a really long time. It just recently wrapped up what I believe is going to be its last season, and I'm sad. Another one, I'm sad to see it go, but I think it was a really good like series overall from beginning to end. I really enjoyed how they ended it, and I mean, come on, it's Archer. I really do like Archer for its phrasing jokes and it's really out there action scenarios. If you're looking for an animated series about a spy, I think it's like one of the only ones. Actually, no, there's Q4s, and it's one of the best ones, I'll say. But that is going to be it for the animated category. All right, next up we have documentary / reality TV. So let's get into it. The first one is going to be Big Brother 14. Last year, they added 2 seasons of Big Brother to Netflix, and I watched 10 in 2022. So in 2023, I started off watching Big Brother 14, and it was a really fun season. This is a good one with the coach twist, where it brought a bunch of former house guests to come in and coach new house guests. I think this was a great one to put on Netflix early because it has a lot. I mean, come on, it's an old season. I actually saw it already, so this was just a rewatch. Then The Circle came back for a new season. I still really do enjoy The Circle, and I enjoyed this season. Then there was a documentary on HBO Max called This Place Rules that was about the events that led up to the January 6th insurrection, and I really actually did enjoy this because it's from Andrew Callahan, who's another person that is probably a little less commercially viable than he was when this was out. It was actually a really good documentary because it was boots on the ground. It was in the midst of all of these events and all these things that led up to the January 6th Capitol riot, and he was interviewing with the insurrectionists themselves, so you get to hear their stuff from their own words. Then there was a series called The Parent Test. I actually don't remember what channel this was on, but it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a test between different parents with different parenting styles to see who has the best one. Really unique take on the show, and I think that people will enjoy it. Traitors, the first season of The Traitors came out early this year. Really good watch. I cannot wait for the second season. I mean, one thing that keeps me drawn into the show is the fact that it brings in some reality show stars from shows that I've watched, like Big Brother, like Survivor, but it's also a really fun format at the same time. Then next up is Perfect Match. Now this is a dating type show that also features returning people from Netflix series like The Circle, and I want to assume that there's other shows like Love is Blind, I think, and The Ultimatum, a bunch of shows like that. They all come together and they compete to date each other. I don't know. It was a fun watch because I don't like dating shows because I think they get boring and it's just a bunch of people talking. This one had a lot of gamification, had a lot of challenges and rewards, and you could actually min-max and optimize your experience in this one. It was a game as well as it was a dating show. Then next up was Last Week Tonight. This is the news series, the weekly news series by John Oliver on HBO Max. Yeah, it's just as good as always. You know, it's as good as the news is. There was a comedy special by Marlon Wayans this year called God Loves Me. It's a really, really funny comedy special. I also watched Chris Rock's comedy special. Didn't like it that much, but there were still some really funny parts. Kevin Hart had a comedy special this year. I think it was funny. I don't remember a lot of it. Lil Rel Howery also had a comedy special this year that I don't remember a lot of. So I think that's all the comedy specials. Next up is going to be some reality TV shows from Zeus TV and Now That's TV. If you know about these internet networks, you'll know that they're a bit, what's a nice way to say ghetto? I can't think of one. They are a bit ghetto. They are definitely ratchet, but I mean, damn, they make some really interesting TV. Now That's TV is literally just a fight club. They just bring people in to fight. And the Now That's TV shows that I watched this year would be South Central Baddies. I think I watched 2 or 3 seasons of that because it's been on for a while. The Academy. Oh, there was also The Mint. And the one that's on right now is called Young and Reckless. So, hey, they got me hooked. I just like watching all these shows because literally nothing happens on them except for fighting. They just show up and fight. And then the Zeus TV shows are a little bit more of a TV show, which just goes to say they're not as good in my opinion because there's a lot less fighting. And the Zeus shows that I watched this year were Baddies West, Baddies East, and Bad Boys Texas. I believe that's all of them. Then I watched a documentary on HBO Max called Bama Rush, which is about a sorority in Alabama. Some of their, less ethical practices. I'll just say that. BattleBots is a series where bots battle. I don't think I have to explain that anymore. Big Brother 1. Now, before Big Brother 25 came out, I decided I wanted to go back and watch another retro season. So I was like, well, let's start with the first season of Big Brother. And that was a really bad idea because it's so boring. It's so slow. Nothing happens in it. And it's so long. So that's Big Brother 1. All the seasons of Big Brother are on Paramount Plus if you want to check them out. And then, like I said, Big Brother 25 came on later that year. And that was a lot more interesting, but it was also really long. So it got to a point where I'm like, damn, they should have ended this season 2 weeks ago. Next up, there are the 90 Day Fiancé spinoffs. There's the original 90 Day Fiancé, then also 90 Day the Other Way, and 90 Day Before the 90 Days. It's all the same show. They just keep making more of them. Then there was Stars on Mars. This was a series on Fox, a reality series where stars participate in a space simulation. It's really good. They're not actually on Mars, obviously, but it was a fun little contest that had these unique challenges where they had to, do fun space themed things. Then there was Claim to Fame. My mom actually recommended this show to me and we checked it out. Well, she saw the first season, but I checked out the second season with her. And basically every contestant is related to a celebrity and they all have to figure out who the celebrity relative is. They get clues and they have competitions. And if you can figure out everybody before you're figured out, then you win. And Project Greenlight. Oh my goodness. I have been waiting so long for Project Greenlight to return. This is the reality series where directors go against each other for the chance to direct a feature film for HBO. And this newest season is now directed by and produced by Issa Rae, and the first season featured women directors only because the original series never chose a woman director. I really love this show. I will never change my mind about it. I loved it. It's so inspiring to me as a director. And I thought it was really good. I even checked out the film that was made on Project Greenlight, and I enjoyed that as well, but we'll get to that in the film category. Up is How To with John Wilson. This is the documentary series on HBO. Another one that I think everyone should check out. It's literally just a guy named John Wilson with his camera who explores different topics, but you will be surprised how entertaining and interesting the episodes are when there's like one guy just literally creating and curating them by walking around New York with his camera. They are so good. The scenarios he finds himself in are so hilarious. I don't think it's coming back for another season. It was on the Axe list. But How To with John Wilson was amazing in the first 2 seasons. There was one episode in this new season that almost made me cry because he was talking about vacuum cleaners, but then he used it as a metaphor for like people in your life that you miss and you haven't talked to, or people in your family that you haven't talked to for so long. It's really good, and that's why I love the show, because he takes mundane and ordinary stories and learns how to make them universal lessons that everyone can learn from. Hack My Home is a home renovation show on Netflix where they like to add a little bit of tech into the decor. Zombieverse, this is a good one. Zombieverse is a zombie themed reality show that I believe takes place in Korea, and it was so good because there's like an element of the characters really believing in it. You know, that they don't break character. They really act like everything that's going on is real and that they really have to avoid zombies and avoid death. It's actually really, really fun. I like the challenges they made, the scenarios. It has funny moments because, I mean, obviously, no one wants to get turned into a zombie. The Challenge USA is the spinoff of the challenge that takes place on CBS and uses CBS alumni, CBS returning characters. And this was another fun season. I'm trying to think, it's getting harder and harder to remember each individual season of the challenge because they don't take a break. I mean, I think last year we got the Challenge USA. The year before we had the Challenge World Championship. And then right after the Challenge USA ended, they went right into the normal season of the challenge on MTV, which is on now. It's called the Challenge Battle for a New Champion. I'll talk about that on next year's list because it's still on. Telemarketers. This is definitely the best documentary on this entire list. Telemarketers documentary on HBO. It is so good. You'll be surprised at how shady and shifty the industry of telemarketing is, but this definitely illuminates all that shady and shiftiness. The lead of this documentary USA, who is like, man, that guy is my Michael Moore. That is my hero right there. And I didn't even need to be saved from telemarketers. This was kind of before my time, but it's so good. It's so engaging that, I mean, you gotta check this out. You will not believe how much like litigation, how much shady stuff is going on. Really good documentary that you honestly wouldn't believe until you see it. The next up is going to be Squid Game The Challenge. I know it's surprising Squid Game is on a reality show list, but Squid Game is now a reality show. And the first season of Squid Game The Challenge, it was pretty good. Nothing to write home about, and obviously now there's a lot coming out that it was a bit the practices were a bit unethical to get that episode done or to get that season done. But it was a fun watch. If you like Squid Game and you wonder what it would be like with real people, then, I mean, you have your answer with this. Next up is Savior Complex, is another documentary at HBO. This is really good. Savior Complex is really good. It has some really interesting subject matter, and it gets right to the heart of some problems that you probably have never even thought about, like white savior complexes. And then next up, Love Has Won is another HBO documentary. This one is a little bit, I would definitely use caution when watching it, because at a certain point in this documentary, I definitely question, should we be watching this documentary? It has some interesting subject matter. Starts off like any other cult documentary, but then it ends off in a place that I did not think a place that I didn't want to go. So there's that. Watch at your own risk. Big Brother Reindeer Games is the newest spin-off of Big Brother that is all competitions. It is holiday themed, and it was fun. My only thing about it is, after 100 episodes of Big Brother, Reindeer Games did seem kind of like a chore, you know? So I think that maybe they should scale back the original season, and I'll enjoy Reindeer Games a little bit more if it comes back in 2024. I'm watching a show right now called Contraband Seized at the Border, and it's about contraband that is seized at the border. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a fun watch, I guess. It is an interesting show if you ever wanted to know how does smuggling work. And then finally, The Ultimatum is another dating show on Netflix, but I don't actually really like this one, so I'll just leave it at that. All right, next up is going to be the Marvel/DC category. This is going to be a bit short because there wasn't a lot of Marvel DC stuff, but actually I think there was more than there usually is. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I did an entire review about this, so if you want to check it out, go ahead. Or there was an actor in here who is no longer in the MCU with us. I thought it was a good film. I'm still enjoying the MCU films, but a lot of people are not. They have that superhero fatigue. And yeah, if you have superhero fatigue, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to check out these movies. But not me. I like superhero movies, except for Shazam 2. I did not like Shazam 2 at all, and it's sad because I really do like Shazam as a character, and there was actually some redeeming things about the film. But here's my problem. The actor who plays Billy Batson is better at acting than the adult who plays Shazam. I'm not gonna name names, but if you can look who plays Shazam. It was so hilarious that like the kid would be doing a really good dramatic performance that was so convincing, so compelling, and then he would switch to Shazam, and Zachary Levi would just be doing the goofiest, not funniest portrayal of Shazam that I had ever seen. So that was very disappointing, very disconnected, and I have no idea why they didn't remedy that. But honestly, I think my biggest problem with Shazam 2 is Zachary Levi. Next up is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. This was a really good entry in the Guardians of the Galaxy series, which I think is a series, you know, they don't miss. I think all three of the movies are really good, but this one was really, really good. I'm a huge fan of Rocket Raccoon. That might be my favorite Guardians of the Galaxy character, and he got a lot of backstory and a lot of emotional storylines in this Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but also it did a really good job at rounding out and finishing off everyone's story in Guardians of the Galaxy. So similar to the series that ended this year, Guardians of the Galaxy also came to an end. I think it was a nice story from beginning to end, the entire trilogy. Then I watched The Flash this year, the most cursed movie of all time, and maybe even also the most cursed review of all time, because there were parts of The Flash that I liked. There were parts of The Flash that I hated. Sometimes the CGI in The Flash was good, and sometimes the CGI in The Flash was bad. Sometimes the story was good, and sometimes the story was bad. At the end of the day, I just don't feel like it was worth it, because I know they put a lot of money into this film. I know that they took a lot of risks on Ezra Miller starring in this film and going on a real life crime spree at the same time. And at the end of the day, I don't think it was worth it, because it wasn't that good of a story. It was definitely fun, and it definitely had some of the elements of Flashpoint that we were waiting to see. But honestly, there wasn't anything redeeming. Like, honestly, Michael Keaton's Batman was not even a redeeming element of this movie. It was just there. And that's kind of how this film was. It was just there. Next up is My Adventures with Superman. This is an animated, you may also be able to consider an anime for its animation style, but it's on Adult Swim, if I remember correctly. I have a complicated relationship with Superman. I think that the character is hard to relate to, and I think that most people who write the character do a bad job. But this was not one of those times. I think this is a really good Superman show. It goes back to like the roots of Superman. It goes back to the origin and the mythos of Superman, and it does a really good job retelling Superman's story without just retreading waters that we have treaded thousands of times. And then there was Harley Quinn on HBO Max. Y'all know how I feel about Harley Quinn. If you don't, I love Harley Quinn. Every single season I love. So I just gotta give it up for Harley Quinn. Another banger season. I think Harley Quinn understands Batman characters better than most Batman stories, and I think they continue to. Then there was the Secret Invasion series on Disney Plus, the Marvel show. This was not it, Chief. It was just not it. It wasn't it. Then there was Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol came back for the second half of its final season, and I enjoyed it. It was sad to see the show go, but it did start to get a little bit mopey at the end, and it was like, come on, are these characters ever going to get out of their rut? So I think that it ended at a good time. While I wish it would stayed on for a couple more seasons, it probably just was not in the cards for Doom Patrol. But I do love this series. I think beginning to end, this is a really good one. And if it would have gone on much longer, it probably would have had a bad season that it ended on. Then there was the Blue Beetle film on HBO. Well, actually, okay, so the Blue Beetle film was supposed to be an HBO Max exclusive, but Zaslav wanted to put it in theaters because he wanted to make money off of it. I did enjoy Blue Beetle. I really did like it. I thought it was really good. I liked it better than I liked Flash, to be completely honest. I liked it way better than I liked Shazam 2. But while I was watching it, I'm like, this is 100% a streaming movie. This is not a theatrical release. It's not really on the level of a theatrical release. It's a fun story, and I enjoyed it. But if I had to pay money in the theaters, then I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. I waited until it came out on digital and I watched it at home. But I could see it being a bit disappointing if I watched it in the theater. Loki season 2 came back, and honestly, another banger. Another really good season. But I think Loki is just the most like successful Marvel Cinematic show that they've created. The first season was amazing, and my only complaint with this second season is that it could have used an extra episode or two because I think it rushed to the end. But the ending was really good, so no complaints other than that. Loki season 2, it even brought the character to a new height by the end of that series. And then finally, The Marvels. This is another film that I already reviewed on this channel. I did a first and final for it, and the Too Long Didn't Read that I enjoyed it. If you want to know all the details of why I enjoyed it, what I enjoyed about it, go ahead and check out the first and final where I reviewed The Marvels. One of my favorite things is that the direction. I think Nia DaCosta did a great job, even though she talked about not having that much creative control. I think the action, direction, and performances in the Marvels are all really good. All right, and then next up, we're gonna get into the big show, the GOAT Show. If you don't know what this category is, it's just shows that you could consider to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time. In the past, I've done like Sopranos and The Wire, and shows that I have heard are the greatest of all time. This time I did add some more of those shows, but also there were shows that I watched not expecting them to be a GOAT show, and they turned out to be a GOAT show. So without further ado, let's get into it, starting off with The Last of Us. Definitely a GOAT show. I love The Last of Us. It came out early in the year, but when it came out, it was definitely my favorite show. There were some other ones that came later. Yeah, The Last of Us was really good. I'm surprised at how successful that story was when I already knew what was going to happen at almost every turn. So really good show, deserves that spot. It was definitely a GOAT. Somebody Somewhere is a show on HBO Max that is, they call it a platonic love story. It's about two friends who are just there for each other and getting through life together. It's really good. It's really wholesome. It's feel good. Mythic Quest on Apple TV. This one, I watched this just because I wanted to see what it was hitting for. I didn't expect it to be a GOAT show. Mythic Quest is so good. It's about a video game development studio. And guys, there's like the show on the surface, and then there's the show underneath the show, and they're both really good. Like, they do these episodes where they go back and they talk, like they give you backstory for characters. And there was like a character who was a writer, and he was learning how to write books and write sci-fi at the exact time where video games were invented. And fast forward to the future, now he's a video game writer. The backstory episodes that they do are some of the best. Like, they are so good, heartfelt. They are amazing. They are just, and I wouldn't expect such really hard-hitting emotional stories out of such a funny show about video games. But yes, Mythic Quest, GOAT show. Hunters on Amazon Prime. This is another show that was on a extremely long hiatus. This is the Jordan Peele show about Nazi hunters, and bruh, I did not expect it to come back and hit like it did. It took me a couple episodes to get back into the story and remember where everyone was, who all the characters are. But bruh, obviously it's about Nazis and World War II, and it's very sensitive subject matter, but I think they handle it really well. And somehow they make a really good, like, 70s action series out of it. Hunters just came back and blew my socks off with its second season. Then there was Mad Men. I watched this intentionally because I thought it would be a GOAT show, and I really enjoyed it, but it is a bit slower and harder to get into than a lot of the other GOAT shows. But I'm happy that I checked it out because there's a lot of history in this show. It's one of those shows that I think people always talk about. So now I'm glad I know the story of Mad Men and I can speak about it. Then there was True Blood. Now, True Blood I assumed would be a GOAT show because it's on HBO. A lot of people love this show and swear by it. And at the time where it was on, it got a lot of buzz. It's a bit cheesy. It's super goofy, but similar to, there was a vampire show on the last list, First Kill. I could not stop watching this show. I don't know what it was. I was hooked. Like, I would watch like 2 episodes in the morning and still come back to watch 2 more episodes. And it was so goofy. It was so cheesy at times. I mean, the main character is a fairy, for Christ's sake. But at the same time, I really did like True Blood. I liked it. I liked it all the way through. I watched the entire show. Then there was Abbott Elementary earlier in the year. We probably would have had another, or we would have had the next season start by now, but the writer's strike pushed everything back. So next month, Abbott Elementary is coming back for another season. This was my favorite show, top 1 show of last year. So of course it's going to be on the GOAT show list, and it was still really, really good. Really funny season. A lot more funny episodes with these characters that I already love. And yeah, Abbott Elementary, just as good as it always was. Wu-Tang: An American Saga had its final season on Hulu this year, and this is another GOAT. If you are not watching the show, you're missing out because, I mean, you get the history of the Wu-Tang Clan, you get like their backstory. There was a lot of times where these characters were beefing with each other and they didn't know if they would come together into a unit, but then in that final season they all do form up like Voltron and make the Wu-Tang Clan. Amazing. I'm glad that I, got to experience the story in this way, because otherwise I wouldn't have known all this backstory behind the Wu-Tang Clan. Swarm. Swarm is a series by Donald Glover that was on Amazon Prime, and oh gosh, it was so good. It was so good. It is definitely like a thriller. It's dark. It has some violence. It has some murdery elements. But Swarm was a really fun character study. It was a really fun story. Dominique Fishback did an amazing job as the title character. Like literally amazing. It was almost like she was a different character in different parts of the story. And every single one of those characters that she portrayed was amazing and was enthralling. Ted Lasso came back for its final season this year. And yeah, it's Ted Lasso. It's feel good, and it's probably the most feel good of the feel good shows. Like, it's all wholesome, it's all fun, it's all inspiring and heartwarming. I'm actually surprised that they ended Ted Lasso, because honestly, I think it was the one show that everyone loved from Apple TV Plus. Then Snowfall. Not only was this the final season of Snowfall this year, but I also went back and just watched all of Snowfall, because I had actually... Alright, so the story is I watched the first episode and never came back for the rest of Snowfall. I was just missing it. And I was like, why? Why don't I just go back and check it out? So I did, and it's really good. I love the story. Damson Idris, it does an amazing job as Franklin Saint. And boy, was that like just a stressful and heart pumping, heart racing, edge of your seat story that ended in an unexpected way. Barry also had its final season this year. I am so sad to see the show go. This is one of the GOAT shows. I believe I didn't get a chance to name this my favorite show of the year, because the year it first came out was the year before I started doing these videos. But every single year that Barry comes back, it is amazing. I mean, the Ronnie Lily episode, which I believe was season 2, is one of my favorite episodes of TV, period. And this season did not disappoint, because we talked about this as a redemption story in a way, but it subverts a lot of expectations. This show is so good. The way it's written, the way the characters are portrayed, are acted. It's a dark comedy, but it's still a comedy. It's still really funny. And yeah, that's Barry. You gotta check out Barry. How can you not check out Barry? It's amazing. Succession also had its final season, and it was a heart-pumping, heart-racing season as well. I mean, a lot went on. We had I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say the show is about these 3 siblings that are fighting to control the media empire that their dad created, and that fight really comes to a head in the season, and then it ends in a way that nobody was expecting. Then there was I'm a Virgo, Boots Riley's show on Amazon Plus. I was waiting for this because Boots Riley made an amazing film with Sorry to Bother You, and this follow-up was even more amazing. I'm a Virgo is definitely a contender for one of my favorite shows of the year. It's so good. It has like elements of superhero comic stories. It has elements of like fantasy and surrealism, and it also has a really strong story about like the working class, and a really strong story about capitalism and the dangerous effects it can have on society. All of that is in one series, and that's why I really did love I'm a Virgo. Black Mirror is Black Mirror. It came back for another season, and I actually really enjoyed a lot of the episodes in this newest season. So yeah, that's it. That's all I had to say about Black Mirror. The Bear came back for its second season, and it was as good, if not better, than the first season, which was a really good first season of TV. This is another show that is like, it's tense, it's so fast paced, and it'll keep your heart pumping. You'll be surprised. It's just about food and a restaurant, but it is damn near, like, the environment is so volatile you would think it's a war movie or something. Speaking of war movies, we had, okay, this isn't a war movie, but it's called Warrior. Warrior is the kung fu show on HBO Max that was actually written by Bruce Lee before he passed. And it continues to absolutely slap. Like, to be completely honest, I mean, the thing you come back to the show for the most part, is the action. The action, the fight scenes, all of that is better in this show than in any other show I have ever seen. I cannot think of a show that has better fight scenes. Also, you come for the fight scenes, you stay for the characters, you stay for the great story, you stay for all of these amazing storylines coming into one. Warrior is really, really good. I've heard that it might be in danger of getting canceled, but I don't know how. It is so good. It's such a banger. So if you guys can help out by just checking out Warrior and telling me what you think, go ahead. It's on HBO Max, but I believe the first few seasons were on Cinemax, so you might be able to watch it on either one. Then there was Rap Shit, Issa Rae's newest show on HBO Max. I'm so happy that we got it before the end of the year, because Rap Shit season 2 was amazing. I love these characters, Shauna and Mia. They are amazing. They are hilarious. And come on, it's Rap Shit. It has everything that you would expect and a lot of things that you would not expect. It really does subvert your expectations, but Rap Shit is amazing. It's a banger. 100% masterpiece with some of the best characters of the past 5 years, I gotta say. And speaking of the best characters of the past 5 years, Reservation Dogs also ended this year. 3 out of 3 banger seasons. This is one of the only shows that honestly, if the year it came out, it was my favorite show of that year, but if I could continue to put it on the list of greatest of all time, it would be on there for season 1, season 2, and season 3. Every single season was amazing. All bangers, no skips. 3 out of 3. Check out Reservation Dogs. I don't know why anyone would not. It's on Hulu. It's coming of age. It has amazing characters, amazing story. I know I say that a lot, but the characters in this are so good that I honestly feel like they're real, and I know them and I love them and I'll do anything for them, okay? And then another show with a similar, I feel similarly about, is Top Boy. The first year, 2020, that I did this, Top Boy was my favorite show of the year. And this is another one that continues to bang. Honestly, okay, what I said about Reservation Dogs, I honestly would also say that about Top Boy. Every single time it comes back for a new season, I would put it on best of the year, GOAT of the year, because every single season was amazing. This last season, gut-wrenching, man. It was so hard to get through. It was a lot, but it was amazing, and it was another story that is beginning to end a banger. If you're gonna check it out, make sure you check out Top Boy Summer House first. That was the original series, and then the Netflix Top Boy continues from there. Fargo is a show that I just started this year, but I caught up to the newest season, and this one has some amazing seasons. It's anthology, so every single season is a completely different story, but they are all slightly interconnected. Fargo is so good. It's about like crime. It's kind of like a police drama. It has a lot of like mafia ties at the same time. Very interesting, and honestly, it keeps you on your toes every single season because you would not expect where these stories go until you actually get there. Then Sex Education, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but that also came out for its final season on Netflix. I missed the show. I mean, I get why it had to end because some of the kids were getting a little older than kids should be, but it's a really good show, surprisingly wholesome, and honestly, like, as far as a romance and relationship show, it's one of the best ones. Our Flag Means Death came back for its second season, and another banger. It's hilarious. You got to check it out. Great characters. Then Dreaming Whilst Black. This is a brand new show. It was on Showtime. Another sleeper hit. I had to put it on the GOAT shows because this was not just an uncategorized show. Dreaming Whilst Black is really good, really fun. I mean, it means a lot to me because the main character is also a black filmmaker trying to make it in this world like myself. So I think it was very personal to me, but still, it's really good, really funny. And it features a lot of really good characters, not just the main one. And then Beef. I just recently finished Beef on Netflix. I know it came out earlier in the year, but I hadn't checked it out until recently. Characters, performance are top notch in Beef. Steven Yeun and Ali Wong, they do exceptionally well, like exceptional performances in this series, and it already has a lot of Emmy buzz, and I hope that it gets a couple awards for those performances and for that story because it was amazing. But I have a brand new category this year, not just the video games. I have another brand new category, and it's similar to the GOAT show. This is the WOAT Show. This is the worst of all times. I got 4 shows on here that were really bad that I watched this year. Starting off with Velma. There was the animated series Velma. This one is honestly the best of the worst. All right, the animation is really good. Visually, I like this show, and I like that it did some like horror, supernatural type elements into the series, but where it fell short for me was definitely the comedy writing. I didn't find it funny. It's a comedy show, so not finding it funny is definitely going to be problematic, and it's going to be hard to relate to and get into it if you don't get over that hurdle. But I mean, comedy is subjective, so maybe it's something that can be adjusted in the second season, or maybe it's just not my cup of tea as far as comedy. Then there was the Gossip Girl reboot. I have no idea why I was watching this, because I never even watched the original one. Maybe I was just on HBO Max and wanted to watch something, so I clicked on it. It's pretty bad, but I mean, maybe if you are a young person, you might enjoy it. I sure didn't. Then American Horror Story Delicate. Now, let me be delicate with this one because this show is actually still on. It took a hiatus, and I'll tell you if the show gets any better, but right now it is the worst season of American Horror Story that I have ever seen. So there's that. And then finally, the worst of all time, The Idol on HBO, the show by Sam Levinson featuring The Weeknd. This show was so bad. I don't know why they made it. And then even after they made it, I don't know why they still edited it. And after they edited it, I don't know why they uploaded it. And then they marketed it. And they acted like this was a real show. And what made me mad is since David Zaslav has started working at Warner Discovery, so much stuff has got canceled or removed from the streaming service. And they didn't cancel The Idol. It was so bad. I know they spent a lot of money to make one of the worst shows of the year, and I don't know anyone who actually enjoyed it. I mean, someone out there probably did, but it was definitely not worth making this show. I gotta be completely honest. All right, so this is the new category that I said I was gonna add in the last list, which are all of the video games, or at least the narrative video games that I played in 2023. The first game, which I think I started last year but finished this year, was High on Life. This is a really fun game. We're not going to talk about Justin Roiland again because for reasons, but yeah, it was a really fun game either way, really funny, and usually you don't get video games that are this funny. So I think that was a unique thing about High on Life, and I really enjoyed playing it, I'm going to be honest. Then there were some games that you guys know I played because I did playthroughs on this channel. Starting off with The Last of Us Part 1, finally came to PC, so I did my playthrough. I will link it, so check out that playthrough if you haven't already. Still like one of my favorite video game narratives of all time, and I'm glad that I finally got to experience it firsthand this year. But also I love that it was the same year. I played this game in the same year that I watched the TV show, so it was a really honestly, the whole beginning of this year was like Last of Us for me. Then there was Jedi Survivor. You guys know I had a bit of a rough experience in the beginning, but this is honestly my game of the year. I love Star Wars so much, and this is one of the best Star Wars video games and Star Wars narratives of the past couple years. The only game I think ever that I have 100%ed, so I really did love Jedi Survivor. Then there was Far Cry 6. This was a game I've been watching for a while, but it wasn't until it came to Steam that I decided to actually grab it and play it, and I was so happy I did because this is honestly my favorite Far Cry game. I started with Far Cry 4, then I played Far Cry 5, and then I went back to play Far Cry 3, but honestly, Far Cry 6 in my opinion is better just because mechanically it's so good, narratively it's so good. The game looked amazing and I played it exclusively on Steam Deck. It still looked so beautiful. Then Street Fighter 6 World Tour. Honestly, I'm not actually done the narrative because whenever they drop new DLC characters, they add to Street Fighter 6 World Tour a little bit, but you guys saw me play through all of the story that was in the base game up until the end. If you didn't see that, then I'll link the finale of World Tour. Then there was Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. This is a really old game that so many people recommend. If you like GTA style games, you gotta check out Sleeping Dogs. And honestly, the combat in this game is so good that when they give you a gun, it's kind of disappointing. You're like, I don't need this. I just want to punch and kick people because he's so good at doing it. Then Portal 2, I literally just finished this game at the last day of the year, but Portal 2 was so good. Another hilarious game as far as writing, but also really fun, and I enjoyed the puzzles in Portal 2. And I played Portal 1 last year, so now I'm done with Portal. Then obviously there was Starfield. Now I'm completely done the main campaign of Starfield, but I have one more video to upload, so check out that. If you want to see the first 4 videos of the Starfield playthrough, they are already up, but episode number 5 will be the finale of the main story. So yeah, I'm excited to end that off, but I already know what happens. I already played it. I played it a while ago actually too. So I'm past the main campaign at this point. Then Mortal Kombat 1, obviously, I know I was waiting for this game forever. I have a full playthrough on my channel, and I really enjoyed the story. The one problem I had was that I played it on PC initially because that was where I had early access at, and there was a bug where it was a little glitchy or stuttery. They fixed that a while ago, but at the time I played it, it was still early access. Then Midnight Fight Express. Oh my god, y'all should know Midnight Fight Express was one of my most anticipated games of last year, and when it finally came out, I was so excited to play it. It's really fun. It also has amazing combat, and the fun thing about this is the combat has very similar controls to Sleeping Dogs. So those are two games that are like years apart, but you could play them both, and the controls are actually very similar as far as combat. And I also played Breath of the Wild this year. I know, the Zelda game that's been out for so long. I decided to finally check it out because I can emulate it on Steam Deck now. And I beat it. And Breath of the Wild is really good. I get why everybody loves it. It's such a like vast and huge and grand, sprawling, fun, open world type game. I think I am prepared to try Tears of the Kingdom in 2024. So that is it. That's all of the games that I completed, but I am still playing Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and then Fable 2 I was playing, but when all the new games came out, I haven't been on Fable 2 in a while, so I'll probably finish that as well this year. But that is all of the narrative video games I played this year, and I'm very excited for the narrative video games I'm going to be playing in 2024. I think the first one is going to be Tekken 8. I have an idea for the second one, but then after that, we shall see what drops this year. Next up, for the final category, we're going to get into the movies that I watched in 2023. Starting off with You People on Netflix. This one was, you can afford to miss this one. This one was not that good. And it had a pretty good cast, so I expected it to be a little bit better than it was. Then we had The Whale, Brendan Fraser's The Whale, which I watched around Oscar time because I want, I like to see all the movies that get Oscar buzz and know whether or not I enjoy them or not. The Whale, I actually really did enjoy it. It's a sad story, but it's like a bottle story too. It takes place in basically one location. But Brendan Fraser is giving an amazing performance in this. So is Sadie Sink, and so are a couple of other actors in this. The Whale was a really good story. And honestly, if you just want to watch something that is like great acting, great writing, really sad, there's The Whale. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, absolute banger of an animated film. This was one of the best films like I've saw this entire year, animated or not. This was my pick for an animated feature at the last Oscars. Really good. The action is amazing, and you'll be surprised at how far DreamWorks animation has come since the original Shrek movies. Causeway was another film I watched around Oscar time featuring Brian Tyree Henry and Jennifer Lawrence. It's like a mumblecore type film, so a lot of talking and character backstory, and it's really like still and silent, but it's a pretty good story. The House Party movie on HBO Max was actually a lot better than I had heard anyone saying. It was, I mean, obviously it's not as good as the original House Party movies, but it was actually pretty good for a reboot that nobody asked for. Megan, the movie about a robotic sentient doll that is basically like a horror thriller, but it has some funny moments. I watched Megan, and it was okay, not memorable. It was funnier than you would expect for like a horror movie, but it was still not a comedy, still a little darker than you would expect from a comedy. Praise This is a movie at Peacock featuring Chloe Bailey, Drewski, and a bunch of other people. This one was hilarious. They're on a praise team, I guess. That's like the plot of the movie. So it has like Fighting Temptations like feeling, but in a modern setting. It's really good, and honestly, like Drewski is hilarious in this. The story and situation is funny. I think Praise This was really good. I actually did really enjoy it. Creed 3, the third Creed movie. If I'm being completely honest, it was another really good entry in the Creed saga. I think I like this better than Creed 2, but not as much as Creed 1. I thought it was really good. And like Creed, this was Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut, but this did not skip a beat or miss out from when Ryan Coogler was directing this. And I think that says a lot about Michael B. Jordan's ability to direct. I think he is really good, really solid with it. And for a directorial debut, this was an amazing film. And there was the Mario Brothers movie. I liked it. I thought it was really good. I like Mario, but I feel I'm not the target audience, so maybe I didn't like it as much as the kids who checked it out did. Reality was a film on HBO based on a true story about a woman named Reality who leaked some classified documents and then was investigated about it. Apparently the story is based on the actual transcripts of the actual interviews. It still is an interesting film nonetheless. I think they made an interesting story and an interesting film out of a real life situation that probably in real life was not that interesting. Next up, The Little Mermaid. I actually really like The Little Mermaid. I'm not a huge fan of musicals, and I have never even seen the original animated Little Mermaid in its entirety, but the live action reboot of it was a lot better than I expected to be, and Halle Bailey did a really good job in that performance. I mean, singing wise, she blew it out the park. They Clone Tyrone. That's what I said was the other directorial debut. They Clone Tyrone on Netflix is so good, y'all. They Clone Tyrone is amazing. Like another black surrealism film that I think people are sleeping on because it came out around the same time as Barbie and Oppenheimer, but in my opinion, it's better than both of them. So check out They Clone Tyrone. Gray Matter, this is the film that was created from Project Greenlight, and it had, you know, a lot of people had mixed feelings about the final film that they made, but I actually really enjoyed it. It's a pretty short film, but I thought it did some really cool stuff. I thought it was an interesting story. The filmmaker who won didn't get to choose the story, but she was tasked with, you know, editing it, rewriting it, whatever she had to do to make it her own story. And I actually really enjoyed the final product that they created, Gray Matter, and you can check it out on HBO. Bloodsport, this is a really old movie that Mortal Kombat is based off. I just watched it before Mortal Kombat 1 dropped because I wanted to see it. Asteroid City is the newest Wes Anderson film, another banger. I love Wes Anderson films, and this one does not miss a beat. I thought he had retired after the Grand Budapest Hotel, but that was several years ago, so I guess he is officially no longer retired. Mortal Kombat Cage Match, I talked about this in First and Final. This is a new Mortal Kombat animated film, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it, so check out that review if you want to see my detailed review of it. Old Dads was a movie on Netflix. It was a Bill Burr film. It was okay. You know, nothing too crazy, nothing to write home about. Bottoms, though. Bottoms is the comedy film featuring Ayo Edebiri. Bottoms was hilarious. This is my comedy film of the year. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was hilarious. I think everyone should check it out. It has this like thing where it was so funny that it didn't make sense at times. Like they just did whatever they want, and it was hilarious. And yeah, Bottoms, probably the funniest film of the entire year. Theater Camp was another one that was really funny. You know, it wasn't as funny as Bottoms because it was a little more realistic, but it was still really funny. The Holdovers, this is a little slower, slow burn of a film, as it was still funny, but it is more of like a realistic dramedy, I would say. But The Holdovers was actually pretty good. A good film to watch around Christmas, winter, over a break, as it's about Christmas, winter break. Candy Cane Lane, that was a Christmas movie on, I want to say Amazon. Sorry if I messed that up, featuring Eddie Murphy. It was fun. I think we just watched it because it was a Christmas movie and it was around Christmas time. Then we had The Color Purple. This is another musical featuring Halle Bailey, but y'all, I am going to be the person to say I don't like musicals, but The Color Purple is an amazing film. I did not know about the story. I didn't read the story. I think I watched the movie, but I don't remember it. So this was almost like my first experience with The Color Purple, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the characters were amazing. The writing was amazing. The feminist text was so ahead of its time that like it goes over a lot of people's heads, but I thought this film was amazing and a great story of like overcoming trials and tribulations, but coming out on the other side of it a brand new person. The Color Purple, really good. Check it out. It's still in theaters. Check it out if you haven't already. And then Saltburn. Saltburn was a film featuring Barry Keoghan. It was very interesting. I'll say that. It kept me on my toes. It kept going places that I never expected for it to go. But yeah, Saltburn was pretty good. It was just a little longer than I wanted it to be, and it was pretty confusing. But yeah, it's a fun watch nonetheless. The final film that I have to mention is going to be one of my favorites of the whole year, Across the Spider-Verse. Across the Spider-Verse is the follow-up to Into the Spider-Verse, but is also the two-part film that is going to go with Beyond the Spider-Verse, and it was just so good. I did not think it was going to be able to top Into the Spider-Verse, so I'm very surprised and impressed with the fact that it actually did. I think that this movie is even better than Into the Spider-Verse, which was like, come on, that was such a good movie. Now Across the Spider-Verse followed it up perfectly. I've seen it maybe 3 times, but I could see it 3 to 4 more times to be completely honest. I don't think that they'll consider it for Best Picture, but if it got nominated, this would be my pick for Best Picture. It probably will get considered for Best Animated Feature because Into the Spider-Verse won Best Animated Feature the year that it came out. So hopefully we get another Best Animated Feature win for Across the Spider-Verse, because out of all the animated features, this is the best one in my opinion, hands down. Just to outro the video, I'm going to talk about my favorite show or movie in each category. And like I said, I'll be quick because this video already took really long. But also, I forgot to mention the show Man Like Mobeen in the first category, as well as Barbie in the movies category. How did I miss that? Yeah, I did check out Barbie. They were both really good. Barbie was better than I expected, and Man Like Mobeen on Netflix is really good. But for my favorite show in the first category, I'm going to have to say Gen V. Gen V was really good. And then for my favorite show in the animated category, this one is so close, but I'm going to say Scavenger's Reign, and it edges out Unicorn Warriors Eternal just by a little bit. Then for my favorite documentary, it's going to be Telemarketers, and for my favorite reality show, it's going to be Project Greenlight. In the Marvel and DC categories, I mean, I guess I'm a broken record at this point, but I think Harley Quinn is still my favorite in the entire category. The Big Show, honestly, it's too close to call. Any of these shows could be my favorite of the year. Mythic Quest was great. The Last of Us was great. I'm a Virgo, Barry, Swarm was great. Rap Shit, Reservation Dogs, and Top Boy were all great. Then the worst of the worst has to be The Idol. And then finally, my favorite movie of the year, even though I said it before, was definitely Across the Spider-Verse. So that is it. That is my entire rewind wrap up of 2023. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's very long, but imagine how long it took me to edit it. Probably took me 2 hours to shoot and then 12 hours to edit all these clips together. But I thank you guys for checking this out. I don't know if y'all heard, but we are actually now a YouTube partner. We made partner, you guys, and I could only do that with the support of all of you. In 2023, we hit 400 subscribers, we hit 500 subscribers, so I'm very excited for where we're going to go in 2024. But guys, that is going to be it for this one. Obviously, I will see you guys next week in another new video, and tell me if you feel me. Why is that just so loud? Oh my god, it lit me on fire. Instant, I'm dead, no! I tried to duck under that shit, bro. Do y'all really see what that shit just did to my health?